It was the last federally funded residential school in Canada. Now, some people might think, okay, all the schools are closed. Now what? Well, what happened was day schools were created where children would still be shipped away during the day and sometimes would have to board with other people in order to go to schools away from their communities again. And then we also have the foster care system here in Canada, which over 50% of children in foster care in Canada are Indigenous, even though the Indigenous population is about 5% of Canada's overall population. So the residential schools have just kind of changed how they look. Like, this is an ongoing cultural genocide. It's a slow roll, and it keeps on going. The government will just tweak how it's doing it, but this is ongoing issues. This is still a problem that the government is not addressing here in Canada. And back a while ago, I made this image to commemorate some of the findings, because Kamloops, we found out about Kamloops a long time ago. I think it was in 2021 or 2020. I was still fairly new to the channel. And I remember I was making a video about something else and I was bashing the Liberals in it. And that was the first video that I ended up just breaking down and crying in, because the news about Kamloops had just come out of the 215 unmarked graves there. And it is just absolutely horrible that a lot of families never had answers as to where their children went missing and stuff. And some of the stories of what happened at these residential schools are just beyond horrific. And I also made a video way back when just called Canada's Genocide, where I talked more about this. But I made this image too. Kamloops, St. Anne's, and Brandon were all kind of investigated similarly around the same time, Kamloops being the first one. St. Anne's has its own particular horrors. That's where they had a makeshift electrical chair that they would use to torture the students with. And so I was able to find a list of all the residential schools in Canada. And when I first started this image, I was thinking they were all going to fit on the iceberg. And then I had to make the print smaller and smaller and then spread throughout the water, because there were too many names to fit in such a small area. And so there are over 130 school names listed in this image.